What's up guys, Zack, Dowdy here, and welcome to another YouTube video. I'm super excited to get in today. Another how to skate transition video. You guys came up with some good series titles for this because I still don't know what to call this series, and I'm thankful for all of you guys for your comments and all the good suggestions for what to call this. We'll go through those later because you had some really good ideas. One thing is for sure, I want this series of videos to be a conversation like I was saying before, so it's not just me talking to you guys, it's us having a conversation. And one of the comments I really liked in the last video was from Cardi. He said, you should explain 2 tricks in one episode that are maybe connected to each other. So maybe the progress is easier for people to do it. Cheers to you, mate. Which I think is a really good idea because that's like definitely how a lot of tricks get easier. You learn one trick and then the next trick's a lot easier. So with that said, today's episode is going to be all about the blunt fakie. But we're going to start with just the good old rock fakie for sure. So this video is being dedicated to Evan Bland. He said, need a blunt fakie video next. And then Toxic M, he said blunt fakie video as well. Also Ace of Wolf Skate says, also please break down the blunt fakie. Any tricks you should learn prior to. You are awesome. Well, this video is definitely dedicated to you as well. So with that said, thank you guys for giving me the idea of doing the blunt fakie. Let's get into some rock fakies first. Just trying to warm up. Rock fakie is actually one of the tricks I always start with when I go out and skate and just getting started in skating. It's like a stretch trick, almost like get your legs stretched out like you would on the ground, right? So yeah, let me do some rock fakies. I'm just gonna go through different little techniques that will hopefully help you when you go to do these tricks. Naturally, when people first start trying the rock fakie, they have their arms sort of closed like they're riding down the sidewalk or just going forward. I will say that's sort of the stance that will work to your advantage, is opening your arm up. And as far as your feeding position goes, I like to actually spread my feet pretty far out and keep my front foot pretty close to the top bolts. My back foot is definitely behind my bolts, so if you kind of just control that little concave in the back of my board. I've done the actual rock fakie part many of different ways, but as time has progressed and gone on, I've learned that decking it out and coming back in fakie is actually a lot easier. I know there's like also a connotation around it being a lot cooler and, you know, gnarly and legit, but it actually is a lot easier and almost safer to do. The contact to the ground is constant. I guess that's the best way to put it, is you have less hang time. So what I mean by that is if you try to rock fakie in the middle of your board and you just go up, which naturally is probably what you're going to do in the very beginning, and try to just rock fakie right in the middle of the board and go back down. The thing is, you're kind of teeter-tottering on your deck at that point. You're going back and forth, sort of wobbling, and it's just harder to control. You're almost doing like a naughty spin, right? And then you have to go back onto your wheels and then go down. And then there's more scrape. There's just more going on in the reality of it. And going all the way up and hitting the back of your trucks, your wheels are constantly on the transition the whole time. So there's less sketch factor, and I know that can seem really scary doing that rock fakie because you do have more board to pull over. It's almost like a tap, like you lean up there, tap, and then go right back down. As far as coming back in, once you are decked and stalled out, I would say one of the things is you kind of can scoot it to the side. And what I mean by that is you have the full contact, you kind of think of it as a little shuffle. I think that helps. Like you almost shuffle out of it, so it doesn't have to be straight pull over. A lot of people try to pull the whole deck over, which you can do, but you can kind of also shuffle your board to the side, which helps you get some leverage and get over so that you don't hang up. And as far as the hang up factor, that's always going to be scary when you're first learning rock fakies for sure. To be honest, the one thing that helped me get over the fear of decking it was kind of doing it smaller and barely getting my board up there and kind of coming down at first. So if you have to do that in the beginning to get your confidence up, that is totally fine. It's a figuring out natural progress. Like I said, I didn't just go and deck my first rock fakie, but as I've learned, it is a lot easier and safer to do it this way. A lot of people sometimes tend to lean too far forward and then zing, and the board goes down the other way. So remember that, you know, you need to be going fakie when you come out, not in a regular stance. I guess that kind of helps. Next, we'll dig into some of the pivot fakie stuff. I feel like the pivot fakie is almost like this crazy dance move where you just kind of swing your front foot out and your hip down low and you try to do like a squat or something and you swing it back under. That's kind of the motion of it, as crazy as it sounds. And this is my stance when I'm rolling up for a pivot fakie. I like to have my back foot again in that kind of same position that I had it for the rock fakie. The only difference is that my front foot is a little farther back behind the bolts. Kind of, sometimes it's like right on the bolts or behind the bolts. I'd say like right under the top 2 bolts. Once you get your truck on there, you're coming right back down. You don't want to fixate too much on the actual stall. Now, one thing you definitely need to know before you even do a pivot fakie is just regular backside and frontside pivots. That's definitely going to help you. And I want to make a video on pivots because that's one of my favorite tricks. So the difference between a pivot and a regular pivot fakie is how sharp you actually go on your pivot. So what I mean by that, when you're going pivot fakie, you don't want to go all the way to pivot because that's a lot more. You have to actually churn. So you can go almost as if you're going to a blunt, but you're not churning all the way to pivot, because it just makes it a lot easier before you have to scoot back in. And one of the ways that I would say that kind of helps from not hanging up on the pivot fakie is exactly that. You sort of kind of scoot your wheels in and then churn, so you're not sort of having to churn everything and really pivot off the coping, which you eventually can do once you learn the scoot. But I think the scoot is definitely a really good technique for figuring out the pivot fakie. At least that's how it really helped me. And sometimes I still do that if I can't really get the confidence to do a full-blown pivot and churn all on the coping. Sometimes I'll pivot and kind of lift off the coping like I'm going fakie and then scoot sideways. So that kind of helps if you're just learning the pivot fakie. Other than that, I would say it's the same thing as the rock fakie rolling away. If you want a full elaborate pivot fakie tutorial, I did break it down a little bit better in another video. I'll leave a little link up above to that video if you want to get more into the pivot fakie. But now I got to get in some blunt fakies, and it's a challenge on this thing because it's so tight, small. I got excuses all day. Let's get some blunt fakies. You guys really put me to work with this blunt fakie tutorial. I'm excited to do it though. I actually feel a lot more confident with my blunt fakies now, and that is one thing I'll definitely say in every video is just persistence. You know, it gives you confidence, and then confidence gives you more security and just going for it when you need to go for it and knowing when not to go for it. The difference between the blunt fakie and all the other tricks is definitely the pop out, right? On this quarter pipe particularly, I feel like I had, you know, not a lot of quarter pipe to actually land on, so I had to pop out, but I also had to not land too far because otherwise I'll just go to flat or go too low and I'll zing out. So something to think about is the quarter pipe that you're learning to do it on. I definitely think a steep quarter pipe can also work to your advantage because you have less to clear, so you have less to hang up on. So that is my advantage here. I'm not really worried about hanging up, I'm just worried about catching enough training. So finding that nice quarter pipe to learn like a blunt fakie and these kind of tricks on is definitely going to help you as well. Real trick to the blunt fakie is getting into it and the pop getting out. That is basically the whole trick, right? It's a pretty simple trick, but that it really deciphers everything. And what I was struggling with was getting into it just right, because if you get into it right, you're going to get that pop and that right kind of structure, and it's sort of like a tension point that you need to be able to keep in between your trucks and your wheels getting over the coping. Because if you lose the momentum, or if you lose that tension and you air a little bit and then you land back onto the coping, then try to pop, it's going to be really hard and it's just going to be just kind of distracting. So I think getting into it and trying to just lock your wheels right onto the top of the coping is definitely going to work to your advantage. So definitely approach it with the, you know, right amount of speed as well, and kind of just make sure you do some rock fakies first to get used to like where that sweet spot is. Once you get right up onto the lip, you lock your wheels right on top of the coping. I think the trick from there is to really get your tail, you know, snapped off. And so one thing is you don't want to lose too far, because the farther you start leaning down, the harder it's going to be to pull back. So you want to lean down just a little bit on your blunt so that you get that lift off. And basically that lift off is going to be your advantage to clearing the quarter pipe or clearing your transition that you're at, so you don't hang up and you land in the actual transition. Hope that helps you with the blunt fakie. I know there's probably more questions you might have, but I think that should help you a little bit. And I will say, you know, when you have that tension kind of coming off the quarter pipe, it's okay to just kind of huck that for a couple times and get used to where you're going to land on the quarter pipe. And over time, you're going to spot it. And that is something else you want to do with the blunt fakies. Definitely spot your landing, and, you know, don't be scared to just bail a bunch of times and get used to it. But then once you're clearing the coping, make sure you just go for it. Let's finish this video up with going through some of your comments on your recommendations for what to call this series, because I still don't know what to call this series. I need your guys' advice still. Let me know if you got any more ideas. Concrete Junkie said rowdy dowdy tricks. Root Beer, he said, how about my approach to learning backside disasters? I do like that, my approach. Harrison Reed said, how to skate transition featuring Zack's favorite shirt. Oh, I love that. I know, I wear the same shirts a lot. You know, it's funny actually, if you want to talk about t-shirts, I don't wear t-shirts ever. I only wear button-ups. That's pretty much it. I think I wear one t-shirt in my YouTube videos at the farm video, and I tried to wear a t-shirt that day because I got all sorts of excuses. But anyways, I was freaking out the whole time. So yeah, I don't wear t-shirts, button-ups only. Tom Townsend said, how about shared perspective? I do like shared perspective a lot. Perspective is a good one. I think including perspective for sure. Daniel Ricky said, you're cool, Zach. Keep up the good content. What about front and back tail stalls? Ooh, I definitely want to do some front and back tail stalls, probably on a different quarter pipe. We're gonna have to go to a different quarter pipe one day or mini ramp and do like some of these chick chips as well, because it's kind of hard on my quarter pipe, some of these. Bo Vine said conquer courses. I like conquer courses. All right, that's it. That's it for this video. I need to go make some dinner. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Like this video if you enjoyed these transition videos so far and my perspective of how to skate transition. I do like perspective. Let me know what you think of that. My perspective. I think that's it's ringing for me. Gonna need a graphic for that one. Appreciate it, guys. Subscribe if you're not already, and see you guys in the next one. Mash.